to the panel who will be speaking to you today. We have some amazing women here. First is Tracy Stone. Tracy is the global leader of the Tech Women and Intuit initiative. She has a Bachelor of Science in Computer and Electrical Engineering from Purdue University. Next is Neeru Khosla, founder and executive director of the CK-12 Foundation, a nonprofit organization which aims to provide K-12 learning materials. She has a Bachelor of Arts from Delhi University, San Jose State, Master of Science in Molecular Biology from San Jose State, and a Master's of Education from Stanford. Welcome, Neeru. And our third panelist is Rhonda Childress, Vice President of Data Security and Privacy, IBM Fellow, and Master Inventor with over 130 granted patents. These are not all of her talents. She also has made a handmade quilts that was auctioned for $1,400. $1,400. She's a Master Chili Cook-Off awardee. And she's a creator of clothing that reacts to tweets. She also hacks into robots. Just a couple of her other activities.
Somebody has to do it.
And above all, she is a witty 2018 Hall of Fame inductee.
Thank you.
Welcome, panel.
Ms. Rando?
Okay, we're going to start with each of these ladies telling you a little bit about their journey to get here. And then after that, they will take questions and answers from the audience. So start thinking of all the hard questions to ask them. Rhonda, would you please start?
I started about 7 or 8 years ago. I was approached to take over one of the initiatives that IBM has by the Academy of Technology, the STEM initiative. And they approached me and said, we're looking for somebody to do something different, something unique, something that's never been done before. And I said, okay, what do you want me to do? And they approached me and said, well, we have this annual event, a STEM event. And I'm thinking, okay, this is good. I'll be in on this one. And they said, normally what we do is a 2.5-hour panel discussion. And I was like, I'm not in on that one. And what's your audience? And 9th and 10th graders. I'm thinking, oh my God, 9th and 10th graders had to have changed dramatically since my children were in school, because there's no way a 9th and 10th grader are going to sit there for 2.5 hours on a panel discussion of IBM executives. And I'm thinking, were we giving them, those caffeinated drinks, Red Bull or something during the whole thing process? Because I was just, oh my God. And I said, can't we do something different and change it to TED-type talks? And they were like, yes, that's exactly what we want to do. So what we did is we started with, like Renee was talking about, outcome-based, and I'm a very big outcome-based. So I get a lot of phone calls from my colleagues going, I'm trying to teach my daughter, son, whatever, to code, but they won't learn it. Well, how are you doing it? Well, I've given them the programming books, and we're going through the for loops, and we're learning to do this, and we're learning to do that. And I go, that's like 1970s. You need to teach them what they can do with the technology. How can they make a difference with these technologies? And that's really what we try to do now. So we put together STEM programs. They're 15-minute TED-type talks, 2.5 hours worth of these talks. We do things like Hungry Hippos, where our SOC analysts were actually given alpha brain wave readers, and we built actuators that worked with the hippos, and whoever was the calmest of the SOC analysts, their hippos ate the marbles. And the kids loved it. How to hack a robot. How to hack your house. We took a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old with their parents' permission. Just so we're clear, parents' permission. And we turned them loose and said, what we want you to do is figure out how to hack into your parents' webcams in the house, especially those on those TV sets that everybody has now, right? It took them 15 minutes. No programming skills or anything like that. So what we're trying to do is show these kids these outcome-based things, but also try to sort of work in a little lesson where we can, and teach them how to do these various and sundry things so that they'll want to learn that technology and they'll want to understand the math and the science and the coding and all these various things behind it. And get them engaged with that, because once they get engaged in what they can do, their mind starts racing off, and now they're like, okay, Rhonda, where do I get this Arduino book? How do I program a Raspberry Pi? You know, I'm trying to make this Apple program work on my phone, and I can't. Who can help me? And once we've got them to that point, I know we've got them to where they want to really engage in these STEM type of activities and learn the algorithms.
Wow.
Amazing. You're next.
Are you sure? I have to follow her?
I'm sorry.
You're amazing. Well, I probably don't have such an amazing background. I came to this country in 1980. I learned to read English by reading comics, Archie comics. You know, whatever I got, I learned from that. So when I came here, I went to the local library. We were not, able to afford college at that point, and I didn't know where I belonged in this society. So I went to the library, and I walk in, and the librarian says, well, go pick out whatever you want. And I looked at her, and I said, anything I want? She said, yeah. So I walk in, and first thing I beeline for is the Scientific American. And I asked her, can I take more than one? She says, take as many as you want. As many as I want? I walked out of that library with a stack full of Scientific Americans. And to date, I'm always collecting information because now I know it's available, and I make the most of it. My journey then is, doing a molecular biology degree and then having kids and giving that up. And from being a mother, then starting an organization at 50 years old, going to college at 50 years old again, and then coming and starting another organization. And one thing I've learned from that is don't be afraid to do something, because you can do things. And I'm going to tell you my story. There's a PowerPoint, so I don't want to kind of talk a lot about it. But my passion is kind of bringing that aha moment to the students, because I think the next generation is as much or as important to mentor and help as is this generation. So my push is for helping as many kids as we can, whether they're boys or girls, because I have both.
Okay. Thank you, Neeru. Tracy, you're up.
Yeah, so my story is I got my degree in computer and electrical engineering years ago. I have to say I kind of happened into that career. I'm very grateful that I did, and I'll come back to that later. But I worked for many years in different high-tech companies and managed software development teams and did technical program management. And then I decided to take a career break, something I never thought I would do. I have 3 kids, a boy and 2 girls, and decided to take a break from my career and was at home with my kids for a little while and on a pause, I guess you could say. And kind of happened into my oldest daughter was in 3rd grade at the time, and a friend of mine also had a 3rd grade daughter. And we were noticing that the girls were starting to say that they didn't like math and science, they weren't good at it. And so we said, we could do something about this. So we started as a small little project to blossomed into our own company and then to a nonprofit. What we did is we created an after-school enrichment program for girls specifically, focused on STEM, with our goal of basically exposing them and inspiring them, showing them why it's cool, doing what Rhonda said, really tying it to real-world projects, very hands-on, team-based projects. And we partnered with my alma mater, Purdue University, and they had some curriculum, and we co-developed curriculum for that. And yeah, so just started at our kids' school, then it grew into other schools. And we got some grants, and just it kind of blossomed into this amazing opportunity. We ended up doing after-school programs, and then we did weekend workshops, circuit building and programming workshops. We used the Raspberry Pi. So very wonderful, enriching experience. Had to do everything. So the curriculum development, everything from from working in a big company then to doing this, had to own it all, which was really exciting. Then I was looking to get back into the corporate world and came across the opportunity at Intuit. Intuit had a role leading the Tech Women at Intuit program. And it's unique in that it reports into the CTO, and he has an initiative basically focused on advancing women in technology, working with senior leaders, and then running all different kinds of portfolio programs. So including these outreach programs. So we do Girls Who Code and some programs with local younger students all the way through our early career engineers up through executives. So run a set of portfolio programs. So it was just a neat opportunity for me to bring together my corporate experience with my the work I did with my nonprofit and passion and interest around advancing girls and women in technology.
Excellent. So as you can see, they each have individually spectacular journeys that have gotten them to this place today. Rhonda, the first question is for you. What was your inspiration for all of the STEM work you do?
I think it was instilled in me at a young age. We were poor, and I mean poor like the road we lived on was Sheep Pen Road poor. That should be an indication. So we lived out in the country, and my mom and dad were very clear that if I was going to go to university, I had to earn a scholarship. And I think it was through the help of teachers and those kinds of things helping me, I learned that I needed to give back to other people, be it in college, university, be it in the workplace, in the workforce. So those are the kinds of things that I think my parents just instilled in me. If you have, you share. And hopefully these are some of the things that we really try to do. And I think you'll find in all the panelists that if we have, we share.
Excellent, thank you. Tracy, you said that your original journey was to get your Bachelor of Science in Computer and Electrical Engineering. What inspired you to choose a STEM career?
Growing up, I didn't even know anything about engineering or computing, and it wasn't on my radar. I just didn't know about it. I wasn't exposed to it. And I wanted to be a doctor. I thought that was just around helping people, and I just liked that. That spoke to me. And it was my high school physics teacher who asked me if I would consider engineering. And I said, no. I actually thought it sounded like, a bunch of old men. There was just nothing that really grabbed me about that. I didn't understand it. And he convinced me to consider it. And he said, you can still go on to medical school, but if you do this as your bachelor's, you might really enjoy it. And I love physics. So he got me kind of considering that. And then the second thing he did for me was, he was an amazing teacher. He had done a grant, and this will date me, back at years ago. It was with I grew up in Pittsburgh. It was with the Pittsburgh Supercomputing Center, and he did a grant, and he was in a couple high schools that got this grant, and we got a terminal in our classroom, and it was a connection to the Pittsburgh Supercomputing Center. So the first internet kind of connection. And with this grant, he got to pick 2 students to go to the program over the summer and learn coding. And he picked me and another student. And when he picked me, it was honestly one of those moments I think he made a mistake. Really? I just didn't have any confidence. I'm like, why would he pick me? And I thought the other boy that he selected, I was like, of course he could do it. What about? But anyway, he believed in me. And that exposed me, and I did some Fortran programming that summer, learned it. I thought it was just really cool. I loved the problem-solving aspect of it. So just that believing in me and exposing me to that was just life-changing. So.
Excellent. Neeru, what is one thing you would like to do to encourage more younger women and younger men to join STEM fields?
You know, that's a huge issue in today's youth. I mean, when you think about, you know, there's Justin Bieber and there's, you know, games going on, you know, even the most passionate science and math people are creating, you know, games that never end. You know, so young kids you can spend your whole life just freaking playing a game, right? So to me, it's just such a waste of, you know, minds that we need to do something. I don't know if we managed to put up the video, because I think what we need to do is to entice kids from very young age to start getting passionate about math and science, and really realizing today what we do in math and science is teach really abstract notions to very young kids so early on that they don't know what it means. They can't transfer that abstract notion to real world. So what in my work in CK12, what I've kind of been pushing for the last 11 years is just the reverse of that, which means that through technology, be able to give not just text, but many things. So by doing that, you know, we can actually help them to really relate from everyday things to convert them into the abstract. So if we can actually engage them from very young moments, yes, we do. There are lots of schools that do project-based learning where they grow a duck egg, and you know they'll put up the same conditions that need to have a duckling come out of that egg, and then you nurture them and raise them. Those are great, but there's got to be real, you know, real thirst for what is it that our world is made out of. That's the only way we can actually move forward in our quest for STEM.
I agree. We'll see if we can get that video up.
Yeah.
A little bit. Are there any questions from the audience? Do you have? Please stand and.
Hi, my name is Maggie. I'd like to ask the three ladies on the panel, what advice would you give for companies that really want to invest in community give back, but there's pushback from employees to volunteer to give back to their community? I think that's an important aspect that companies are trying to envision, but to get employees to really take that notion and really want to give back and be part of STEM programs for our children.
Good advice.
Yeah. Could you all hear the question? Okay, she's going to give you a microphone, and we're going to make you restate your question.
As we try to figure an answer.
Yeah, while they're
Buy us
thinking.
some time.
I don't mind.
So, we actually have.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Hello.
Yeah, we got you now.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maggie. I work for a company that likes to give back to communities. And my question to the three ladies on the panel is, what advice can you give for companies that really want to give back to the community and want to engage into STEM programs, but you get a lot of push from employees to want to volunteer, want to give back? I think that's such an important aspect that companies are trying to engage, but employees are not they're not giving. So what advice or what ideas can you give for companies that are trying to?
I think what I found is a couple things. One, you need to have different programs for different aptitudes. So some of them have to be point in time, once and done. And there's going to be just a certain population that's going to want to do the once and done. It's just the way they're geared. We might as well get used to it, a kind of thing. Millennials want it done now. Boom, over with. And then there's some that want to do more longer-term strategic type goals, work with classrooms and those kinds of things. I think you need to have a continuum of those kinds of projects where you've got some that are very quick hitters, easy to be done, not a lot of work on the participants' part, to some that can be very complicated, like the one I'm doing with Conley High School, which is an at-risk high school in Austin, where, for the love of God, you think in Austin we're a technology company in town, we could get these people hooked up to the darned internet wirelessly, but it's school policy and procedures and things like that are being prohibitive. So, it's been a year now. We are inches within inches of being able to do that. We've got repeater up now in the classroom, and unfortunately, somebody didn't think through the whole 59 yards, and the laptops are hardwired, and we've got a wireless repeater, so we've got a little bit of a challenge there. But it detail, right? So but if you've got something that's short-term, quick, and can be done, you can get a lot of people to participate, and some people want to participate in the longer one, but you have to have that continuum of things for people to do, because if somebody doesn't want to do something long-term, getting them to participate in something that takes a lot of time and effort, you're just not going to get them to do that. So we try to do some continuum. Here's some short-term, long-term, medium-term type situations.
So I'm presuming you're talking about giving time to community, right? So
Giving time, mentoring.
yes. Part of the problem, I think, is that, it's extra time. More than, you're working. So people have a lot of commitment outside just their work. And so that means that either they have to take time from those commitments and offer these, or the company itself has to say, we are going to put aside certain number of hours that we encourage you to do some sort of service learning or service volunteering or whatever, mentoring or something like that. And that, is something that's so important. That's one way to encourage. The second way to encourage people is that some people, the early adopter kind of things in technology, if there are a group or a few people in the organization that band together and say, we are going to start this kind of thinking in our organization, and they take the first steps towards forming those groups, forming that forward-thinking, group of people that are going to say, like Rhonda says, start putting together programs that might others volunteer. Now, it's like technology adoption. This is going to be a slow adoption. It's a mindset-changing thing, and changing mindsets is so hard. But if you stick with it, others will start thinking, maybe there's something in it. Human beings in general like to give, but they just don't have the model. Especially in business, there is really no model. It's like, okay, the company is going to give money, but that always doesn't solve the problem of, really giving and mentoring and all those things that are needed, just not money itself, because money itself doesn't change or solve the issue. You need to get in there and show people, change their mindset, show them a model, show them how to do it. That's the important part that you're going to have to do.
Tracy, do you have anything on this one?
No, I think that the suggestions are great. I would just say it seems to be if it's more that the company is supportive, but the employees are not jumping in and doing that. I think Rhonda's points around giving the different breadth of opportunities so they could find which ones they identify with. Other things a company can do is like what Neeru said, is just building in some kind of a company policy around, we'll give you so many hours. Enabling groups to do it together would be great. So doing them in team environments. The other thing that could be really great is that, and I found this is finding a way to recognize those that do. So just even like recognize them by emails or letters to the leadership team. And so you are really highlighting the people who do that, because it's true, it's above and beyond, and we all feel the pressures of just our day-to-day, getting our jobs done, whatever might be outside of our work. So there might be a desire, but just feeling like I can't do it. So figuring out how to remove some of those roadblocks.
So an acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement, or their
by the
leadership
company.
team saying, we'll give you so many hours, or building in
Excellent.
some.
And Stephanie, one more point I want to make. In the company I work for, if you volunteer so many hours, you can actually give a grant to somebody, $1,000, $2,000 kind of situation. So you will be surprised at the number of people who maybe, your kids go to school and they need something. Yeah. You can band some people together to do these volunteer hours to get the money to help that school get what they need. And that's a powerful motivator for people. If there's something like that, there's some kind of reward, reward at the end of the whole thing. And some of the promotions and things that we look at, we also look at what your give back is. Give back is always a big category in reaching the upper echelons.
Yep. Yes, it is. Okay, I think we have another question back here.
Hi, my name is Corinne, and I've been in technology for about 12 years. I was one of 4 women that was nominated to come represent our team. You all talk a lot about work-life balance, and as a new mom myself, I want to kind of hear recommendations from you, how you manage work-life balance and how you continue to be successful in technology. It's something that's really near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure a lot of the women out here. So kind of hearing your feedback of what's continued to make you successful at home and at work.
Oh gosh.
Go,
So I have 3 kids myself. I have a high schooler, middle schooler, and an elementary school kid right now. So work-life balance. Let's see. So I've been in this game of being a working mom for many years now, and I'll tell you, as a new mom, I think I approached it as an engineering problem. Like, I'm going to figure out this formula, and I'm going to solve it, and I'm going to do it. Not even realizing that there'd been many women before me who also struggled with this. But I've come to realize there is no formula. And it's just something I think the only thing is that getting comfortable with that it's something you always have to be striving toward. And I'll tell you, some days and weeks I feel are better than others. And so, but yeah, I also think that, so just being comfortable with that, I think I've learned a lot over the years that that's really important. And there'll be curveballs along the way, emergencies that, big things happen at work or something with the kids are sick, something happens along the way. You can't predict that, and just being comfortable with how you are going to you'll respond to that. The other thing is just asking for help. I think that as women, we tend to feel like we have to do it all. You can't. So just being comfortable asking for help, and whether that's at home or at work. I think over the years I've learned to be more comfortable at work, being vulnerable and saying, I'm struggling with this with my kids right now, I need a little bit more grace. And I think then you establish yourself and it's accepted. But I think when I was younger, I think I was afraid to say that, especially using as a parenthood as a reason. Let's see. I think so. Yeah. I think it's pay somebody to do it. That's right. Pay somebody. Exactly. There's the whole outsourcing component of it. So yeah, being comfortable with that. So yeah. I hope that helps. Another major thing is that I also be comfortable with adjusting your career. Like I didn't expect that I would ever take a break from the corporate world, and in fact, when I did that, I thought it was so hard. And so being comfortable with that, and oh my goodness, it led to all these other opportunities for me since then. At the time, I wouldn't have been able to predict that, but it was the right thing to do for my family. So being comfortable that there's no one career path. So as you kind of continue on in your career, being comfortable with that, and you never know what other opportunity might be behind that.
Excellent. Okay, there's another question. Yes, just a second. Neeru would like to add something.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think
That's okay.
I do want to add one story to that. I think, life-work balance is something that not only women struggle with, but it's also men. They also have, at least, the men that do care about their families, with my So my husband, when I was having the kids, instructed his assistant that he could only be out for dinner, 2 or 3 times a month, period. So he was home for dinner every day. He had a calendar, and he would, she would mark on them. Later, when the kids came, she put a glass jar, and in that put for every week that my first child had left at home before she went away to college, she put a bead in there. And every Monday morning, she would take out that bead and said, "Did you use this week well?" And just such, kind of things that you can actually make like a long-term versus short-term life-work balance are great, things to think about. So it's not just short-term. You're thinking, I got to go for this today, so should I go, should I not go? But think about it like a long-term, commitment, like a marathon, and not just a quick, sprint. So think about what that means today. If I went out, what that meant, how many times have I gone out for work? How much is it worth? So those are the kinds of things that you should consciously be thinking about. And I'm not good at that, by the way.
I hear you all talking about making strategic moves to make things work. Okay, next question.
We have time for this one last quick question. My name is Faith Sahai. I'm head up AIG's Global Innovation and Technology, and I'm just taking a pause to take care of my parents. So I so appreciated your comments there, because I'm nervous. That's my first time kind of taking a pause, except for maternity leave 20 years ago. So my question is, you're doing amazing things, inspiring the future generations. What are you excited about, and what things can you share for us that we can share with our companies and families?
We all look at Rhonda.
I think some of the newer technologies that are coming along are what really excites me. Internet of Things, sensors, and those kinds of things. Just think as we old and get older. So you're taking a pause to take care of your parents, but what if your parents were not close enough that you could do that? But what if you could enable with passive sensors their house so it's not intrusive to them, but you know that they're eating, they're doing dishes, they're taking care of themselves. And you don't have to be there to do that. And I'm not talking spying on your parents. My mother swears I'm spying on her, and I'm not. But it's just, I want to hear that the refrigerator door opens with regularity. I want to hear the toilets flushing. I want to hear your bathing. I just want to hear that you are fine. And I don't want to intrude your privacy, but I want to know that you're okay, because we are living longer. We want to stay in our houses, in our homes. So these technologies that are coming along that I think that are going to allow us to do these things, and these are things that are here now. There are other things that God knows, 5 years from now are going to be here, but these are the things that really get me excited about how can we take these things that we have today, blockchain, and end some of this bickering between spousal or ex-spousal units on who's got the custody of the kid. Just think about using blockchain to know who's got the spousal custody, who can take the child out of the country without all this hoopla and drama surrounding it. How can we take some of this technology and apply it to the more practical aspects of what we do every day? Like Renee said before, it's what can we do with it? It shouldn't be technology for technology's sake. It's technology for what can we do that's good with this technology. And as a small plug for security, please make sure it's secure. Bitcoins being stolen and things like that. Why Bitcoins was a great thing, but when the Bitcoin swiping sort of started happening, it got a bad name. But, how can we take this technology and how can we apply it for good? And how can we make our lives better and easier is what really gets me going.
Thank you. I would like to thank all of the panelists. As you can see, they each have amazing stories to tell, so I encourage you to speak to each of them, catch them, network with them, and get to know anything that you didn't have time to ask today. Thank you.